Okay, got it.
So the first question says,
Define the term job description.
so when we talk about job description, it's you analyzing the role or the function of the job that you need a potential employee to fill.
Okay.
Do you get the point? So I wrote here, it's the analysis about the role and functions of a position that is yet to be filled by a potential employee. So what is he or she is going to be doing when he or she comes in to the organization? That is the job description, his roles, his function.
Yeah.
The second question, two advantages to an employer of using person specification. When we talk about person specification, we're talking about the required skills, knowledge, characteristic that the potential employee must have. That is what person specification is. Do you get what I'm saying?
Not really.
Person specification is part of what's it called? Stages of employment. So we have job description, we have person specification. For person specification, we're talking about the kind of person we need for that job, the qualifications the person must have, the characteristic the person must have, the skills, the knowledge the person must have to fill up that position. So the question is now saying, what are the advantages to an employer when it states person specification?
Okay, is a person specification related to the CV of a person?
Yes.
So it's a CV.
Yeah, it's your CV, but yes, it's your CV, but we need, this is what we are looking for. If you don't have it, do not waste our time.
Yeah.
Do you get the point?
Yeah.
So the first thing is to make applicants aware of the skills required of them for the vacant position. So applicants, don't come here to waste our time if you don't have these skills. If you don't have this qualification, do not even come. Do you understand the first point?
Yes.
The second point is to give an outline on the kind of person the business is looking for. So it outlines the kind of person we are looking for. The first one is about the applicant coming, not to waste our time. Come if you know you fit in to these requirements. The second point is that it also gives us an outline on the kind of person we are looking for. Clear, right?
Yeah.
So go to question 2.
Define the term private sector.
We call it private sector because it is run and controlled by individuals or groups of individuals. Clear, right?
So an entrepreneur, a person who rules his own business, right?
An entrepreneur, a person who owns a business, is in the private sector.
Yeah, so it's an entrepreneur.
Anyone could be an entrepreneur. You could be a sole trader, be an entrepreneur.
Can I be an entrepreneur in a public sector?
No. Except if it's becoming privatized. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The public
privatized.
That means government is selling the property or the business to individuals.
So once it's sold, the person who get it is an entrepreneur.
Is an entrepreneur.
See, nice question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it. Thank you. I think it's clear now, right?
Yeah, very
great. So we go to question B.
Explain 2 advantages that a business in the public sector may have that a business in the private sector may not.
Yeah, you mentioned the public sector just now. So in the public sector, the first thing in the public sector is that businesses in the public sector might have accessibility to finance. Why would they have access to finance? Because it is funded by government.
Okay.
So government has money.
Yes.
So not that government is planting money somewhere, but they could get money through revenue from taxes. Unlike if you are a private sector business, you need to source for fund.
Okay.
From banks, from friends, from crowdfunding, whatever sources. But for the public sector business, it doesn't need to. The fund will come.
Okay, so if I was in a public sector and I wanted money, so I took a bank loan.
Public sector governments do not take bank loan.
A public sector doesn't.
No. Why do you want to take bank loan for what?
So they
are funded by public funds.
Okay.
Do you get the point? They are funded. Public sectors are funded with public funds. What are public funds? Tax revenues.
Give me an example of a public sector.
The government work, the government hospital, the government secondary school, the Ministry of Education. All these are public sectors. The government school is a public sector. Jala Hospital is a public sector.
Okay.
They are funded by government fund.
Yeah.
Clear?
Yes.
So we go to, those are the 2 points I made here. Okay, the second point is that they don't have to pay dividends to shareholders. Public sector, whatever money they get, they are not getting it from shareholders. So there's no dividends paid.
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Right.
Another point is there's no pressure to make profits. Or do they have any pressure? They don't want to make profits, so there's no pressure to make profits. So these are advantages for them. Is it clear?
Very clear.
So go to question.
Explain the difficulties that a small business startup might have when trying to obtain finance from an external source.
So as a small business, what are the difficulties you could face when you have to, you have to source for fund externally?
Okay.
Like a bank loan, like an overdraft. So the first difficulty you're going to have is how to convince the lenders that your business is viable. You're a small business, especially if you are selling a new product. How are you going to be able to convince them that this business I'm talking about, this business I need this finance for, is viable, it's profitable?
Okay.
It's difficult for you to convince them. That's the first difficulty. Do you get the point?
Yeah.
The second difficulty is about, what do I write here? Inability to have collateral. You're a small business, you don't have assets that could stand as a mortgage or as a collateral or as a security for what you're getting from the bank. So banks are not going to be willing to give you cash because you don't have collateral that would stand for you.
Clear.
So that's the difficulty. Is it clear?
Very clear. So go for
they said how many points? It's 5 marks, right?
Yeah.
So the last thing I mentioned was small business might not be able to arrange a bank loan due to. I told you about that.
You did?
Yes. The last point is inexperience. It's a small business, so a small business will be considered as as a business that lacks experience. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So because of your lack of experience, banks cannot trust to give you money. You won't know how to deal with it.
Clear.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So to manage the fund, you might not be able to because of your lack of experience. Question 4.
Define the term national market.
So why do we call it a national market? We call it a national market because it operates within one country, not outside the country. That's national. A local market within the country. Or a business that operates only within the country.
Most of our businesses are national market then.
In Libya, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, most.
They don't import from the outside, and
they don't export outside. They don't export.
Only exportation.
If you do exports, you become international. So when you produce here and sell within here, it is national.
Okay,
local.
For example, for those who for the clothes shops, they bring clothes from the outside and they sell it here. So it's national?
No. It's international. It's international. It's national if you produce the clothes here, you sell it here.
Okay. So we finish with question 4. B, explain the advantages to a business of selling in an international market.
When you sell in international market, the first point is that you have access to customers home and abroad. And what does that imply? It means you have large customer base. Having large customer base would increase your revenue. That's the first advantage. The second point is about economies of scale. If you are selling into the international market, it means you are operating on a larger scale. And operating on a larger scale would allow you to have a reduced average cost of production.
Clear.
Which in the end of it, you might make profit.
Clear.
So go to question 5.
Analyze the disadvantages to a business of using debt factoring to improve its cash flow.
So what is debt factoring? Debt factoring means you are selling your debt to another business. So if the business is going to buy that debt, it's going to buy it like you are owing me 100,000, and a debt factor wants to buy the 100,000. He's not going to buy 100,000. He's going to buy it for maybe 80,000. Do you understand? So I'm going to get 100,000 from you, but I will be paying you 80,000. That is what debt factor is like. Selling your debt to third party.
Okay.
Is it clear? So what are the problems about selling debts? The first one I said, the use of debt factoring sends a bad signal to your stakeholders that your business is in liquidity problem. Because if you are not in liquidity problem, you should have paid your debt. But now that you are selling your debt to third party, it means you have problems with cash. And that could destroy the relationship between you and the stakeholders. The second point is about customers. Customers might not want to deal with businesses that always go with debt factoring. They see it as a business that is not serious. The third point is that those that you are selling the debt to, they might, if you are selling my debt now, I might find it difficult to deal with third party. So I might not want to deal with anyone else than you that we had the deals before. So I don't want to deal with that third party you are selling that is buying it from you. As a result of that, we might not be having future transaction.
Makes sense.
You get it, right? So we go to B.
Discuss the limitations of using accounting ratios to compare the performance of different businesses.
Yeah, when you use accounting ratios, are fine. You can use it for the performance of the business, but it has its own limitation. So yeah, what I said, ratios can show trends over time between businesses, but it has the following limitations. What's the first limitation? Accounting methods used by companies are different. So company A might use different accounting methods to that of company B or C. So because we use different accounting methods, our way of measuring our depreciation will be different. I might be using straight line method. You might be using we have straight line method, we have reducing balanced method. So these methods might not give us the same answers. So that means our profit might not be the same. Do you get the first point here? Yes. Because accounting ratios or accounting methods differ. So it might be difficult for you to get the same result.
Yeah.
Okay. The second point I made is ratios are information that we get from the past. Profitability ratio, liquidity ratio, all these ratios are information from the past, which means it does not have any impact in the present.
Okay.
Do you understand? Yes. Information of last year, we use it for this year, but this year has its own situation. So the situation now might not be reflecting the situation of the past.
Okay.
That's the second point. The third point I mentioned is ratio has not calculated. Okay, ratios do not have, they are not certain indicators of the future or now. They are for the past. So when we use ratio analysis now, it is not for now, it's for the past.
Okay.
So it doesn't measure, it's not an indicator for what is happening right now, and it's not an indicator for what is going to happen in the future.
So I need to renew the...
So it is updated.
Yeah.
It's outdated, sorry.
Yes.
And the last one I mentioned is that ratios do not consider any qualitative information. So they are information, they are figures. They don't put into consideration qualitative information like staff motivation. Like, oh, the performance of a business is also attached to how workers are motivated. If a business wants to make more profit, the workers have to be motivated. But when you talk about ratio analysis, there's nowhere you see in ratio analysis that talks about workers' motivation, workers' job satisfaction. There's nothing like that. It's about figures and figures and figures.
Yeah.
So this is a limitation because you have to think about qualitative information like staff happiness, like workers' motivation, because these things will depend. These things are also important for the future performance of the business.
Yeah.
So is it clear?
Right.
So that's all about that. Yeah, I have to end this one.